Hello and welcome to Michael and Ivanka's Grand Podcast. It's a weekly podcast where we're just going through the nouns one by one. Just one at a time, each noun. My name's Michael Forrest.
And I'm Ivanka Magic.
I meant to say Michael and Ivanka's Grand Family-Friendly Podcast. Since 2019, halfway through, we went, I should let it. People put it on in the car, really. I'll start bleeping swears. Why not? It's not hurting anyone. Unless it's really important that we use the word, the real word. If it's a conversation you can have with your child where it's like, no, that is the correct word. Donald Trump is one of those. Like, I think that's okay, but just not like casual. Yeah, what are we talking about this week?
Pride.
Pride
We're
week.
talking about pride.
It's so there's the pride. I sort of feel like talking about pride in any other sense than sort of like gay pride feels a bit funny, but we're going to talk about the word in general as well. Pride comes before a fall, taking pride in our work, just the sin that is pride.
Why is pride a sin?
I don't know.
You'll know more about this than me.
Yeah, I should know more.
You have a Catholic education.
I'll collect some thoughts together on that. But we'll start. Yeah, we'll just talk about the meaning and the importance of pride when it's a good thing, and the other implications as that you just go through the definitions of the noun until we've sort of filled 45 minutes of content for the internet. Okay, this isn't just content. This is us. We're doing stuff for our brains. How are you, Ivanka?
I am good. I'm going to take some days off. At lunchtime today, I'm going to switch off my computer and unplug it, and I'm going camping, and I'm not going to come back until Tuesday or Wednesday.
Wow. When's the last time you did this?
I don't know, it's been a little while because I've been in a bit of a make hay while the sun shines mode in terms of work. But actually, I need to stop for a few days, so I'm going to do that. I also, for those of you who as you know, I don't live on an island in Croatia, but I'm here a lot, and I have been struggling with my internet. And I've been phoning them very regularly and trying to be the squeaky hinge that gets the oil type person to ask, when can I have better internet yet? Can I have fixed internet? Can I have fixed internet like the Homer Simpson, when Lisa and Bart want to pull. They but apparently I was missing the magic words, which are, please may I submit a formal request for a fixed line to my house. Okay. And then suddenly the person on the other end of the phone goes and recalibrates, and then I fill in a proper form, and now I have officially requested a fixed line to my house.
Right.
This is the way of countries. Well, this is the way of Croatia. I shan't generalise. If you don't know the magic words and you don't know that it's called you wanted to do an official request, a fixed line. Why didn't you say? Because I didn't know those were the magic words. So yes, now I've done that. I'm hoping that maybe in the next 6 months I'll get fixed internet.
That's exciting. I must say you are looking a lot clearer and a better image than I'm used to, and it's moving. Yeah. So I don't know if that's related to something else, I think, but still it's nice to actually see. But then I'm comparing how pale I am to you and your sort of like sun drenched glow.
Sun drenched glow. Yes, but I don't think we should tempt this wireless internet, which is just it's 4G internet, which is
no good. Having
a good day. So let's not question it right now.
Yes, okay.
But because it's quite unreliable. I've also, in light of the fact that I'm about to have some days off, I cleaned my office this morning and did some, throwing away of Post-it notes and finding of Post-it notes that haven't been actioned and writing up of Post-it notes. Some interesting things I've found. One of which was I tweeted this morning, which it says, wouldn't it be brilliant Question mark. Or wouldn't it feel brilliant?
Yeah.
I don't know what I was talking about
That
at
was
the time.
a conversation with me where I said, yes.
Oh.
We were talking about whether, you know, we what we were saying was, wouldn't it be brilliant if we did get loads of podcast downloads and like it was really successful? Wouldn't that feel really good? Yeah, so I'm a little disappointed that you just wrote it on a podcast, on a post-it, and immediately forgot about it, because I thought I'd finally managed to convince you to do some promoting work. Apparently, just written down on a post-it note, what's this mean? I don't fucking know. So there we go.
The fundamental issue here is that I use this podcast as a way of practicing my lines when I'm arguing with other people, and learning stuff. And you know, I'd love it if lots of people joined in, I suppose, but I don't really know how. Then I might have to change my behaviour and be less self-centred in my thinks.
Michael and Ivanka's self-sabotaging podcast. Confirmed. All right.
How are you, Michael?
Thanks. I'm on holiday as per your orders. Ivanka last week went, just take August off. I was like, I suppose I could do that. I could just take August off. So I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it in I'm going to be like Mrs. Maisel, going to the Catskills. So organised fun every day. But then if like a gig comes up, or if a thing, if there's an opportunity on the makeup counter back in the city, I'll just rush back and do that. And then I'll go back to my holiday. But it'll be a long holiday. So that's what I'm doing. Being my own boss, I'm allowed to do that. And yes. I decided I would actually use my done good thing to actually like create activities that I have to do. So I'm finishing a book that I've been reading. I've booked a driving lesson. I'm going to sort of try and get these driving lessons kicked off. But it hasn't been an entirely relaxing experience so far, but for good reasons, I think, which is on Monday I got an email from Apple saying, we want to feature your app in the App Store. And I was like, yeah! And I did a dance, and then I did another dance, and I did some dances around. I didn't even care. I was just like, this is the thing that I was trying to achieve on the app that I wanted to achieve it on. And I did a dance, dancing around, dancing left and right. I went, yeah, 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 yeah. That was for the evening that I got the email. I was like, yeah. I'm working with this designer on some stuff. And then I started looking at what they wanted and sort of misunderstanding the volume of how much stuff, because they need like images and stuff to use. You have to submit some graphics for them. So then the next day I felt sick with anxiety about all of this, like literally just sick with about like failing to give them all the stuff they needed. And like I was talking to this designer friend, and when I got on the call with him, he was like, oh, I think they only wanted this one graphic. But meanwhile, because I'd been going off, it's like, is it going to be like, because what I sent them, because I submitted like, here's my app, can you look at it, with a form, and I got a bit personal in the form, and then I'm sort of envisioning this editorial feature where it's like, is it going to be about me? How much is it going to be about me or the app or the indie, blah, blah, blah. But then it turns out it's actually it's the smallest type of featuring. But then, you know, like, so and then the next day I was like, hey, he's done a really nice job on the thing. I really like that. Was something I was sort of thinking might work, and then he's done it like that. And then we had that, and then the next day I was like, oh, I submitted it, but like it said no text, and I can't see any other ones with text, and they're going to reject it. And then the next day I was like, your artwork has been approved by Apple, and I was like, god damn it. And now we've just got to wait and see.
I'm
like
exhausted.
I know, like
just thinking about. And just listening.
I know, and this is like in the middle of my so-called holiday as well, so I'm sort of like still not exactly sort of chilling and fiakkering, but that's definitely, yeah, but I'm very relieved about that, and that was kind of what I was hoping would happen anyway. But it's like, you know, we talked about last week, this being your own boss thing is real. It is a roller coaster, if nothing else. Yeah. Last week my sales were down. This morning I looked, I put the price back up, and my sales are back up to something okay. But then I looked at my corporation tax, and I was like, oh, that's more than I was hoping. But then I was like, but I'm not going to have to borrow any money, and that's unbelievable, really, considering I'm a year into not having done any paid work, and like, so it's just like I'm trying to sort of disconnect, but it's sort of really hard to do that when you're the sole proprietor of something that needs support emails replying to, and you can't quite let go. There's that Apple are like, you need to give us these things by Thursday, and you get an email every day saying, don't forget, you have to send us this by Thursday, and
really,
it's impossible to unplug. But I'm hoping just that the duration will kind of make the holiday count. So I'm having fun. It's good.
Yeah. I'm going to have to do a call on Monday and a couple of things. There's no way around it. But but we've had on Restaurants Brighton phenomenal traffic last week. Phenomenal. I mean, if only we had an ad-based model. But I refuse to do an ad-based model, so we don't do that. But it's great. We had literally on Monday 6,000 people on the website. Crazy, because we can't take a great deal of credit for it because it's because of the government scheme to eat out to help out. However, I can take credit for making a page for it as soon as it was announced and populating the page and going to the government website and getting the names of all the venues that are on the scheme and putting them on the website in an easy to find and digestible fashion. So, it's called...
So, as a segue, is this something, what can we take pride in when we're having success? Yes. I was so excited this week because it was finally a little hint of success that I could be proud of, because I couldn't really be proud of coronavirus suddenly meaning everyone had to look for a webcam thing to overcome the shortcomings of Apple's baseline camera thing. I couldn't really be proud of that, but I can be proud of this thing. And likewise, you can be proud of the work you've done in response to the situation, but it's harder to be proud of. It was the government that did the thing.
Exactly. I can't be proud of the success of the campaign, but I can be proud of how responsive we've been to it, I suppose.
Yes. We can only control the things we can control, so you can't really take pride in...
I don't quite understand why pride is why are you not allowed to be proud? Who said that? Apart from the people that wrote the Bible down and used it to control everyone.
Proud people, I think there's an implication of sort of not really being open to, modifying anything, criticism, or not even criticism, but I think pride can come with, I'm too proud to, like the older person that's too proud to admit they're wrong, or too proud to kind of take on another perspective. Because they're sort of because their identity is kind of mixed up in this sort of proud, I am knowledgeable and wise, and that can then become a barrier to sort of personal growth. So maybe that's what Jesus was on about, or I think it's Old Testament, to be honest. But
is it pre-Jesus?
I think so. Those 7 deadly sins seems like an Old Testament thing.
BC, as they call it.
BCE, before Common Era, as we call it now, but before Christ.
But I feel like we are doing pride a disservice, pride with a capital P and rainbows, if we don't talk about that first.
Well, okay, but I was just segueing, segue into it.
It's a good segue.
With the skill that I segued, and then, we could talk about that. It's your podcast too.
Are we playing any music?
I don't know, yeah, sure. There, that was some music.
So, I suggested this topic this morning because I've been seeing lots of pridey things, and B, I've been reading, as I have this continuing mission to read lots of things written by black authors, particularly black women authors. And this week I've been reading The Eloquent Rage, which I mentioned last week, which has made me do some thinking. And it talks about LGBTQI, etc. rights, and it talks about intersectionality and inclusivity and all of those things. And it makes me think, so it's made me think about them or revisit my thinkings. And and then there's this thing separate to that. As mentioned earlier, I use this podcast as a practice run for having arguments with people that I don't want to turn into arguments with a shouty face, and I want them to be informative discussions and etc. So one of the things that happens when I talk about gay rights, particularly with people on the Balkans, and there are many people, I'm discovering more and more people who aren't homophobic, which is reassuring. The predominant sort of mode of the government is because it's kind of got that Catholic far rightness to it, is to be homophobic. But one of the things that comes up, which happens elsewhere as well, is that whole, I'm not bothered. People can do whatever they like, but they don't need to do that pride marching nonsense and wave it in my face. And imagine that in Croatian, some version of that.
Okay.
And this is where I think, obviously, I disagree, but it took me a long time to understand why I disagreed in that. That sort of in the same argument, people, you go Black Lives Matter and people go all lives matter, and then you go pride and they go, yeah, but there's no heterosexual pride. And it's that thing of, if you have rights to fight for, then they need extra attention.
Yeah.
And I know we all know that, but in a sort of world of practicing your sentences and your arguments against and shoring up your position, I find it sometimes very hard to discuss that with people that don't agree.
Well, as a heterosexual, white, straight man, I feel like my expertise in this field is very valuable. The way I'm thinking about it, I refused. I suggest I draw the line at playing devil's advocate. I will not be playing that game. As gross as it would be. But listen, I was just thinking about, like, the reason that you have a pride parade is, well, it's the inverse of shame, which is what homosexual people have been expected to feel about the way they are. They are expected to hide. They're expected to be ashamed of that difference to the sort of mainstream sexuality. Like, no, you should be ashamed of this. You should deny it. You should keep it in the shadows. You should not ever tell anyone unless there's no reason for you to have it. No. So that's why you have to have the opposite of that. No, we are here, and actually there's way more of us than you realised, and in every aspect of society. So don't bring your shame, your Catholic guilt, your shame onto us. We're not going to... It's a scary thing to do. So it's a sort of strength in numbers. I am proud of this, of who I am, of this part of my personality that's been turned into something that I'm supposed to be ashamed of. So I guess that's why, it's a different sort of thing to just being proud of stuff. Well, I only thought of it as we're talking about it as a podcast, isn't it?
but I had not thought about it that way. I think it's because shame is the destructive thing in all of this. What is that? Is Siri helping?
Siri just started playing a podcast. I think I must have said something about a podcast. We'll rewind that and see what that was.
While you're recording a podcast. But then, okay, put that in a word. Why do we have more permission to feel shame than we do to feel pride societally?
And why is that? I always think of Cordelia on Buffy saying, like someone calling Cordelia shameless, and Cordelia going, "What's so great about shame? Why should we be, shameless is this insult? You've got no shame, jeez."
No shame.
Well, I suppose it is sort of like does help grease the wheels of a functioning society. If everyone was like an in-your-face cokehead style, here's what I think, and I don't care what anyone else thinks, I think it would be very hard for a society like that to operate. I suppose it is like it's supposed to sort of like oil the differences between us and make us a little bit more cautious about kind of coming in with our most political opinions to just try and kind of make it a bit, it's like seen as a virtue because it does to some extent help make things smooth things over, but it's when it becomes at the cost of people, when it gets turned into a weapon against certain people and sort of a denial of the existence of entire sort of swathes of the human race, that we have to go, no, this is not something I will be ashamed of.
No, but and then on the pride side as well, like, so then you get this sort of like, there is a sort of things you're allowed to be proud of. It's weird, isn't it? So the next thing I was thinking of is national pride. Pride in your national, like...
or sports even. Like
what do you mean?
Being proud of something you had nothing to do with.
Because your team won.
Yeah, my team won. What did you do? Oh, I cheered from home.
Yeah, but they've been able to prove during COVID that the home advantage is real, and having fans in the stadium does make a difference.
Okay, well, that's why I addended.
They've proven it with data.
That's why I added the addendum that they cheered from home, where no one could hear them.
I heard that, but I'd already thought of my point, so I was going to ignore that.
That's what a discourse this is.
I was doing selective listening and confirmation biasing. And
Shall I just
like
edit
that.
out my follow-up sentence and make it sound
leave
like
it in there. Let people hear.
If you like this podcast, you could support us on Patreon, or you could just tell your friend who's an influencer, and they could tell everyone that follows them on their social media platform or newspaper of choice, of employment, of repute. What's your ad? You got an ad? We don't have to call it an ad. What do you want to promote anything?
I would like, if you're enjoying this podcast, it made you think of something, please get in touch and tell us. I'd like that.
Sounds good.
How about
Yes,
that?
please do. Yeah, cool. If you want to, I've got a business called Good to Hear. I've still haven't had to go back to contracting. It's been over a year. I'm scraping by through just sheer luck so far. But if you go to goodtohear.co.uk/free, you can get my app that Apple recently described as a fantastic contribution to the App Store.
Wow.
Changes.
I think you're allowed to be proud of, as the team what won, you can be proud. And the people, if you run really fast and you've worked really hard to run really fast, then you can be proud of that.
I think, you should be proud of your own achievements. You should also remember that no achievement exists in a vacuum. I think, like, national pride is I'm not saying I don't have it when I'm like, Isaac Newton, British. What are you going to do? William Shakespeare, whatever. What are you going to do? British.
Do you know the conspiracy? I suppose it is a conspiracy theory. The European conspiracy theory that Shakespeare didn't write any of his stuff.
There's loads of conspiracy theories about that sort of thing. Yeah, it might be. It's probably true.
Which is why they say it's like all Merchant of Venice and because it's all
European.
Some Italian.
You brought it all in from different places.
Obviously, because you can't write about places you're not in.
You can hear about stuff. Oh, the Orient. Ooh, they have mysterious ways.
My daughter says that to me. Mummy, did you not know? And then will proceed to tell me something. She knows.
But yeah, like national pride, I don't want to feel proud about like winning wars. I always think we kind of probably overblow the benefits of winning a war, and also we're just being proud of. Like, you can maybe be, like.
I think by being proud of winning a war, you're underplaying the damage of the losing the war and the winning, the damage side of it. I mean, there's obvious benefits if you're like the colonizer, But that didn't come for free. Other people suffered enormously in order for that to happen. So, but then in the going back to the gay pride, that's not something you achieved, is it?
Is it parade? He didn't achieve the parade. He didn't achieve. Yeah, it's not about. Yeah, but like I think it's the opposite of shame. It's like, this is me. This is my part of my identity.
Yeah, I suppose you've got to be proud of the fact that you stood up.
No, but I'm taking pride. We're talking about taking pride versus like choosing to take pride in something that is associated with, in the wider society, is associated with negativity. Taking pride in something that most people think should be associated with the opposite. But anyway, I'm mostly disappointed about COVID because I bought an exciting Snatch Game T-shirt that I was looking forward to wearing at Pride this year, with like a rainbow thing. Because last year we went and I was like, I've got no rainbows. And then I was like, yeah, I want to go in my Snatch Game T-shirt and get some compliments, but didn't get to do it. Bloody virus. I was hearing about like a way sort of Japanese culture works in some sort of this idea that if you talk too much about yourself, I watched this YouTube video showing how someone had sculpted the Joker in Blender. It was this 10-minute long video of him doing this, but it was just like this stream of consciousness about the nature of creativity. But he was speaking Japanese and it just had these subtitles. And one thing he was talking about was how when you're sort of too personal or sort of too there are some ways of talking that put a burden on the listener, and that's sort of like a no-no sometimes in Japanese culture, in a way that we don't really think about the burden we're putting. We don't really think of it in those terms, I don't think, in the West. And I thought, it's almost like we choose, like we're strategic with when we want to like force someone to see us perspective and see us as an individual, instead of like sparing them the discomfort of having to like be burdened by our emotional state as well as their own emotional state. But I was just thinking about that in terms of, these virtues that have been sort of codified that sort of form that sort of social contract that we have with each other. But it was just like an addendum to that earlier point, and just something I saw this week that I thought was interesting.
I think of pride like when people say, be proud of yourself, stand up straight, take some pride in your work, take some pride in what you do. And I suppose in those kind of like critique, in that sort of usage, it's kind of reminding you to do your best, isn't it?
Yeah. And I had a conversation on LinkedIn this week that I think one of the problems of capitalism is that it like removes the scope for a lot of people to take any pride in their work, because it's a sort of race to the bottom. What's the minimum you can get away with that is encouraged when your only metric is money? You sort of lose the opportunity to become an artisan, to become a craftsperson, to take pride in your work. And obviously a lot of us will seek out those places where, Oyster was great when I discovered that. Like when I joined Oyster, I was like the company that, became LBI, where we met, that I was like, I can actually like be rewarded for doing a really good job on something, which I hadn't seen in employment before then. What comes with that is that always comes with this massive price premium. But that's the problem with capitalism. To get something that someone's taken pride in, you've got to pay 10 times as much now. In history, people would, that was part of their identity, doing a good job, being seen to be good at something in the village. And it wasn't just how many pounds can I squeeze out of my neighbour for the minimum amount of work. So pride in that situation is obviously, something I sort of miss. Yes.
And I think the that I do remember LBI I remember arguing with a project manager. I don't know if it's one of the, I think it's the first time, possibly not the last time, but the first time that I properly lost my temper at work and shouted. And I was very embarrassed afterwards that I'd lost my temper. And somebody else reassured me that people need to know that you have limits. But she was like, it's a tool. As long as you don't overuse it, it's okay. And I was like, well, yeah, true. But I ended up shouting at this project manager because my part of a massive project was on budget and another part of the project was not on budget. And they were asking me to squeeze my work to cover the over budget on the other part. And I was like, you're asking me to compromise the quality of my work to cover somebody else's shortfall. I was very sweary and rude and shouty and in their face. It's like, that's not my problem. It's like, at least acknowledge that that's what you're asking me to do. Not, hi, Ivanka, do you think you could do a bit less of this? No. Yes. So that was
being robbed of the opportunity to take pride in your own work is a bummer. But I think this is
a bummer.
But I think this is what, if we had universal basic income, it would unlock. It would unlock people's ability to kind of start their own things, and without that terror. Well, with some terror, but actually, I think my dream of it is you would see a lot more of those kind of artisan things that we see as like high-end things. I think that I could see that becoming a norm if more people had the opportunity to just work on what they loved and become really good at what they loved doing, instead of being forced into these stupid jobs that we're all forced into now.
But a lot of these sort of artisanal products, just like they are. I remember going to a bakery in Brighton, and there was a loaf of bread that was £7.50. And I was like, I'm sorry, what's in it? What's in it? What's it made of? What? How is it this much money? What is?
Well, I suppose I'd hope that as more and more people were able to do it, that maybe the price would come down for everyone.
Somehow we
the
can
only way
it.
to exactly, but it comes back to that thing of like any slight improvement in quality results in a ridiculous hike of the price in the way we're doing things now, and I hate that.
I did see a tweet. It's related, but not particularly to pride in work. I saw a tweet this week of somebody who said that they used to work in maybe Selfridges in Manchester or somebody, and one of the Gallagher brothers came in, and this guy looked quite sad, and whichever Gallagher it was went, well, why are you looking so sad, mate? And he said, oh, because I've not met my sales targets. So the Gallagher bought 5 pairs of jeans. It's like, that sounds like a nice thing. And then, but the comment was in the context of, why didn't he just give you the money and stop feeding this capitalist machine that forces you to feel shit, but to meet their ridiculous targets?
Does not
so
reward
that you. Could just
make, you're rewarding their jobs for other people. Make someone else rich. Capitalism.
Because he's not even like, the poor person who's got the target to meet in the shop isn't even in control of the marketing spend that dictates how many people walk into the shop. So it's like, it's just totally having to be responsible for things you're not in control of. But then I suppose, but the whole taking pride in your work is a way of avoiding, we're threatened with shame though, aren't we? If shame is the opposite of pride, it's like, well, you don't want to feel ashamed of your bad work. So therefore... You must take the pride in the effort. I think I've listened to Brené Brown talking enough time to sort of have been processing shame for a few years as a negative and something not to be held on to. Because I think there's also this thing of accepting as well the limitations. So, but I know that you said earlier, so I'm just saying what you said in a different way, but the whole not getting stressed about things we can't control or the frustrations of things we can't control. But they're also accepting, whilst working on yourself, while trying to get better at things, still understand that day that's what you achieved, you still did your best, or that you don't need to feel necessarily ashamed of all the things that you can't be proud of.
Yeah, or ashamed of all the things that you can be, that you can't control.
Yeah. So it's like...
Yeah. Like, and it's, I mean, not to take it back to me, but like, yeah, it's definitely been my experience this year. And just, I said it already, but yeah, like when I'm suddenly selling apps for no reason that I controlled, it's not even that it wasn't that even that I wasn't proud of it. I was almost a bit ashamed of it because it seemed to show some lack of judgment about where I should be putting my energy. But, you know, it's very easy to turn something to shame if you are emotionally unhealthy on some level.
Yeah. Where does being embarrassed sit with shame? Like, you know, sometimes there's that sort of feeling, yes, I'm proud of this because I know I'm good at it, or I'm proud of that piece of work because I think it's good and it's persisted and it's, you know, it's stood some sort of test of time. Let's say that. But then there's also the embarrassment if people draw attention to it, or like I don't know, is that
I would think of it in terms of how much it's tied up with your identity. I think embarrassment isn't such I made a mistake and I'm embarrassed about it, but it's not part of who you are. Shame, I think, is generally more, well, this is something I can't help myself. I just eat the whole pack of biscuits. I'm so ashamed. I couldn't stop myself. Yeah. It's just, this is what I always do, you know, and the same with, you know, all the other things that we're supposed to be ashamed about. It's like, yeah, but I can't, you know, I can't change it. So, you know, I think there's that identity thing to it.
Yeah, I suppose so. And it's like, it's that, this is who I am sort of thing, which I suppose, which is why the shame of homosexuality is so evil. Like it's because it's just,
I keep having these evil thoughts and I can't control them and I'm so ashamed. Like, okay, well, maybe they're not evil thoughts.
Yeah. It's like the being ashamed of. It's like reading this. You know, having my now I don't know, few weeks foray into literature written by black people. I'm becoming more. Even though I've read. You know, why I'm no longer talking to white people about race and all those books. I'd read them a couple of years ago, but I don't think I'd internalised it as much. But just reading about, for example, how hard it is for a little girl who is black growing up with pictures of pretty girls with swishy hair, how hard it is for her then to take pride in her own hair and how she looks and be happy. Or maybe, like you say, just not be ashamed of it or not feel like it's somehow lesser or different or wrong or I mean, different's not a negative word, but wrong. So it's like, I think that sort of... I think there's this not, you know, the sort of permission to not be ashamed and support to not feel ashamed.
Yeah, and inspiration to maybe take pride in some things that we thought we were supposed to be ashamed of in general. That's, I think, what we can learn from, like, pride parades. It's like, okay, well, maybe my pasty white skin is a good thing. Like, maybe
just who I am.
You know.
Yeah. I think it is. That's one nice thing about going or joining in with the Pride Parade is it's an incredibly positive experience. You know what I mean? It's like, but when your part's like full of positive energy, which, you know, I think we're all in. No, I don't think there's anybody for whom that could be a bad thing. We all need a bit of that from time to time to go, yeah, it's okay to go, yeah, I'm lovely.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to be happy. I'm allowed to be who I am.
Yeah. You know. You've got to love who you are, haven't you? Otherwise,
which is
it's hard sometimes. Hard sometimes when you're like, yeah, but that bit of me is a bit rubbish.
Yeah.
But if we can, isn't there there's nothing more wonderful than someone that maybe you react to that has that self inner glow and sort of is proud of who they are, even though that might not look like it's something you'd be.
I think dealing with people who accept themselves.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It's much easier and much more pleasant and so relaxing compared to dealing with people who
Like me.
are not comfortable in their own skin. Yeah, people like you, Mike. I cannot believe that I'm on episode 2079.
It's gone down from last week. It was 70,000 last week.
It's because we've been recording for 75 years. That was my last week's reference. But yes, I think it's just and maybe that's what your Japanese video was talking about, the burden of having to interact with somebody who's going through some sort of constant internal conflict that makes them construct some version of themselves and on the fly. It's just like, do you take a deep breath? I'm not looking at your clothes. I'm not looking at your hair. I'm not looking at, I don't know. I don't even know who you hold hands with and kiss. I don't care. Can I just please buy a loaf of bread? Or like, can I have a flat white without the judgment, please? It's like so my go-to reference is a hipster barista where you go, ask for a coffee and they sort of look at you as if to go, oh, just make fucking coffee and stop judging me.
Okay, let's finish it. Judgment. We're worried about being judged, though, aren't we? Judged for our sins. So that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe. So if we just redefine what is seen by the wider society as a sin, as a flaw, as positive, then they can stick that judgment right into their heterosexual sphincters. No, I don't know.
I would have gone with bottom, but sphincter's good.
If you like the podcast, you can go to grandpodcast.com and email us or subscribe or do any of the things. There's a Patreon even. Where can people find you on the internet, Ivanka?
People can find me at Ivanka on Twitter.
Find me at Michael Forrest on Twitter. And thanks for listening. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Bye. Bye, bye, bye.